Now, Luke Valentine, it's time to educate you on how a real vampire does battle.
Hey everybody, welcome to EZAnime. It's been a long time. We've had a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
Cramming through end of the year stuff, doing break, all that sort of thing. But we're back. We've both watched Hellsing Ultimate.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about what Hellsing Ultimate is to get started. But before that, I kind of want to contextualize our experience with Hellsing.
Yeah.
This is my first Hellsing experience. This is like the only thing of Hellsing that I've consumed is Hellsing Ultimate. So I haven't read the manga. I did not watch the original TV series. So that's kind of my perspective going into this. And Brad, I know you're a little bit more experienced.
Yeah, I
with
watched
Hellsing.
the original TV series. I think it was 13 episodes. The original one's old now I think about it. I remember watching, I think I was in high school. So like 2002, 2003, I was watching it.
Sure.
Man, we're old now.
Yeah.
Damn.
And so the thing with Hellsing Ultimate, to kind of explain it for people, is the original TV series came out and the manga hadn't finished. And so they had this anime original antagonist
Yes.
that they ended up with. And it diverges from the manga, whereas Hellsing Ultimate tries to stay truer to the manga. And based on what I've read, it seems like they've done that pretty successfully. Haven't read the manga myself, so I can't verify that. But my understanding is that they stick very close to the manga. So it's kind of like a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood
situation.
And what's really interesting about Hellsing Ultimate that I didn't know until after the fact, after I had finished watching, is Hellsing Ultimate kind of released from 2006 to 2012, and it was worked on by 3 different studios.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're surprised by that. You
Yeah,
didn't know
I didn't
that.
know it was 3 studios.
Yeah, so State Light did episodes 1 through 4, Madhouse did episodes 5 through 7, and Graphinica and Kelmadik did 8 through 10. I hope I got that last name right. And what's amazing to me is the consistency in
Through the arts,
animation.
that's why I was surprised.
And just direction and all of that stuff. I don't think I would have picked up on that at all had I not read about it after the fact. But Hellsing Ultimate, Brad, if you were to sum up Hellsing Ultimate succinctly, what would you say about it?
Ultra violent vampire action.
Yeah. Yeah, the violence, I don't think, can really be overstated. So we're going to talk about the fights more specifically. But the thing I want to say about the battles in Hellsing Ultimate that I appreciated, I guess this kind of makes me sound like a psycho, but it seemed like every single fight, they're like, all right, what's a new way that we can tear somebody up?
Yes.
Like, what part of the body haven't we focused on before? Okay, we're gonna slowly or quickly just rip that to shreds.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Alucard's got some new powers now. Let's have him kill some guy with a new, unique way.
Yeah, exactly. And he does. Not only Alucard, but a bunch of other people that we're going to get into. I think the thing about Hellsing Ultimate is it's pretty... I don't want to say it's simplistic, but the general concept of it is fairly easy to understand. You've got this Hellsing organization, and basically what they do, the descendants of Van Helsing, they're trying to get rid of all supernatural forces that are threatening England. And that's their objective. And they end up going against Millennium, which is sort of the resurrection of the Nazis from World War II. And they get more... their reasons are further explained as the series goes along, but basically... what you're presented with initially is they love war.
That's
they want
like
to kill
the main
people.
thing, yeah. What was the main guy's name? It's been like a month and a half since I watched
the leader
it.
of Millennium, Major.
Yeah, that guy is just like, I love combat, I love death, I love violence.
Right. A very Joker-esque figure, but I think what I like about the Major so much is he has some of the most captivating speeches, I think, of the entire
absolutely.
show, where he's just the So I watched this subbed. I don't know if you watched it subbed or dubbed.
Yeah, subbed. Yeah.
Okay. I was watching some clips of the dub through various points, and the dub seemed pretty solid as well, but I watched the episode subbed. And one of the high points of the show for me is the voice acting.
Yeah, real good.
On both sides, good and bad, and specifically talking about the Major, just his maniacal laugh, his like, he just is seething evil.
Yeah, you feel it through the performance for sure.
Yeah, it's something you feel, it's something that you sense. It's not, I think a lot of times with villains, it's like, okay, let me put on my evil voice, where it just kind of exudes so naturally from this character that I like. And so those are kind of the two forces going at it, where you have Hellsing fighting against Millennium. And what ends up happening pretty quickly and ends up being a bulk of the focus for Hellsing Ultimate is Millennium comes and they invade and they basically just blow up England and kill
London just,
so many people. Yeah, London specifically, thank you. They kill so many people. But kind of going into that a little bit further, there's other factions at play here, and namely the Vatican.
Yeah, they always hate each other, the Vatican, the Protestants.
Right, yeah. So you have Iscariot, and basically this is Iscariot group that's working under the Vatican. They also want to get rid of all supernatural forces. They are weapons of God.
Yeah.
Paladins. But they don't like Hellsing because Hellsing is a Protestant organization.
Yeah.
And they're not into that. And so they have sort of this rivalry, this hatred-filled rivalry with Hellsing.
Like old rivals definitely carrying on through generations. And they make that very clear.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing that I want to say about kind of this setup, talking about all these different sides, is about Alucard himself.
Yeah.
So you have this, Alucard is the ultimate vampire, and he's sort of consumed all of these different souls throughout his very lengthy life.
Like 1 million something they said, or something like that.
Yeah.
They put a number on it at one point.
Just this insane number of souls that he has inside of him that he's consumed. And this gives him like unfathomable power.
Yeah.
Where so many times...
So OP.
Yeah, he is. He's very...
So OP.
Very overpowered. He's very strong. And to the point where he's basically laughing at anybody that comes up against him. Time after time, he'll get like shot in the face, decapitated, just completely destroyed, shrugs it off, ends up devouring his enemies. But Alucard is in service to the Hellsing organization.
Yeah.
He works for them. He is basically a slave to them.
Yeah, he serves them, yeah.
And that's going to be an important point that we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I think, again, to boil it down, you have Hellsing, you have Millennium, you have this fight, violence, all of that stuff. But the thing I think I found frustrating about Hellsing Ultimate, Brad, and I want to get your opinion on this, is for as simple as I think as it is to paint broad strokes about Hellsing Ultimate, I think a lot of times when it came to filling in the details, I felt a little bit lost, or it felt like weirdly rushed or poorly explained or underdeveloped. Let me get into specific
I could have
examples.
gone for like a nice flashback episode about Alucard, like how he becomes in the service. They kind of show like brief flashes of him like when he was Dracula, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like losing to, I assume was a Hellsing. I can't remember exactly who it was. But I could have gone for a little more depth, and when there's like the total character betrayal from the one character, Alfred, becomes a bad guy.
Yeah, Walter.
Walter,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah. No, it's
Walter.
okay.
Batman.
You got that Batman.
Yeah, Walter is all of a sudden a
Sense.
bad guy and a kid. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Why are you like 10 years old now?
Yeah, I think that moment specifically
Like,
was the...
That's when it goes off the rails the most.
Yeah, that moment specifically when Walter's a child and Alucard is a child, it's like, okay, I have ideas about why this is happening, but they're both kids and they're battling each other. That was really bizarre. Also with Mina Harker, and that kind of whole reveal at the end. Looking into it, there are things that I appreciated about it, and there are some reveals in the last episode that I actually think are pretty well handled, namely with the Major, and what's going on with him. But let's get into character specifics here. Let's start out on a bad note for me.
Oh, okay.
The character that I think I was most frustrated with in Hellsing Ultimate was Seras Victoria.
Oh, okay. Police girl.
Police girl. Yeah. So, as we described before, you've got Hellsing, you've got Millennium, you've got Iscariot. They're all fighting each other. Within Hellsing, the series starts off, episode 1, there's this town that's being attacked by a vampire and ghouls, servants of the vampire, and the police come. They're obviously no match, and the priest ends up, Alucard and Hellsing come, and they're fighting him, and the priest vampire takes Seras, this policewoman, hostage, and Alucard is like, you know what? I don't really care, and he shoots and kills. He shoots through, killing the priest vampire and like mortally wounding Seras Victoria, and he basically gives her an ultimatum, and he says, hey, do you want to become a vampire or do you want to die? And so Seras becomes a vampire, and I think the idea of Seras is really good, and I think an important point in the show, like I can see where they're going with Seras, where it's like, okay, you have Alucard, who is kind of already accumulated all of this power. Let's have this entry point vampire to kind of give us an inside look into what it's like being a vampire, how that ascension of power works, something that we can kind of latch onto, and a vehicle for understanding. My problem with Seras is they just straight up don't develop her for a long period of time. Her struggling with being a vampire doesn't happen all that often, and when they do try to develop her character, it feels really awkward and arbitrary and not natural at all. And so, well, there are things that I like about Seras. Like, I think she's cute and fun, and I think some of the moments with her are good.
She's got a cool gun.
Yeah, and then when she's with the mercenary Bernadotte, there are things that I like about that relationship, but overall, this was a character I think that really fell flat for me.
Yeah, they kind of like set her up to be almost main character. It felt like how they were setting up for the first few episodes, and she just kind of fades in the background.
Yeah,
It's like, why?
yeah. Was there any moment specifically with her arc that you just were like really frustrated by, or a part that you surprisingly enjoyed?
I liked when she just went ape shit in Hellsing Manor at the end when all the mercenaries were dying. That was awesome. When she's like finally starting to use her vampire powers. But I just felt like I felt like she should have been with Alucard more, and they kind of should have had more with their relationship going on, I guess, like the master pupil kind of thing. She just kind of like excelled really fast in some ways. I wish she struggled a little more.
Yeah. There was kind of this sense that I got with Hellsing Ultimate where there were a lot of times I just kind of wanted to accept this show as a hyper-violent, stylized, awesome action show and turn my brain off and enjoy it. And I think you can do that. I think the fights are so well done, and the animation is so cool, and a lot of the fights have so many creative elements to them. Like there's always a little bit of a twist, and these fights kind of build and build and build and get more dramatic. Like, it's exciting to watch these different forces fight, but I think I could never completely shut off because there would always be these moments where it would try to develop the characters a little bit. And I think what ended up being so frustrating with me with Hellsing Ultimate is there are times where that worked, and I'm like, oh, I just want more, and I just didn't feel satisfied. And then there were times where it didn't work at all, and I just felt frustrated.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. I mean, the biggest thing for me in this series is the last arc just goes on real long. Just drags, I feel like. It doesn't need to be that long. Like, I know you and me talked about this earlier, like a couple weeks ago, how we liked the first few episodes because it's kind of like jumping around a lot, like dealing with different situations, like those vampires going around who like worship the devil, kind of stuff like that, killing innocent people, and they're kind of dealing with that. Then it just kind of focuses into this overblown, insane, a million people dying at all times for like the half of the series.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think you can kind of get attached to different directions that the series is going on, and then feel a little bit bewildered when it deviates sharply from that.
Yeah.
Like, you start out, you're in this small town, and you have this budding relationship between Seras and Alucard. And then you have this kind of deviation where they're attacking the Hellsing Manor, and
The
that's
Valentine
fine.
brothers.
The Valentine brothers, right.
Yeah.
And then you go beyond that, and you've got a character that I loved, Rip Van Winkle.
Which one was that again? I can't remember.
So working for Millennium, the character that has the magic bullet.
Oh, yeah,
that
her on the
controls that
boat.
goes-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool, yeah.
And so Rip Van Winkle is singing from this story, basically, and views herself as a character, Casper, from this story, and views Alucard as sort of the antagonist of that story. And it's interesting. There's enough theming going on with Rip Van Winkle through kind of the story that she's so infatuated with, and the way that you see her interact with the crew members, and just the drawing of the Nazi symbol on the boat. Like, I feel like they didn't sit there and give you exposition with Rip Van Winkle. They didn't go on and on and on, but they spent enough time to kind of establish this character.
Yeah.
And be like, this is who she is. This is kind of the vibe that she's giving off. And that confrontation between her and Alucard coming in on a fucking plane and just crashing down. I was
sick.
I was so excited. I was so into it. I thought it was awesome. And I wanted more of that, like kind of this rogues gallery of characters. And I thought they would get progressively more interesting, but they got progressively less interesting.
Especially with the last one.
Yeah, because you go in and you have like these like high-ranking Millennium characters.
Yeah,
You've got,
it's like, who doesn't love like the high-ranking guys that you have to go through, like the bosses?
Right, and they set them up to be like that. And I just feel like they sort of implied traits about them, but they never went far enough with any of them. Like, you have the captain, you've got the doctor, you've got Zoran Blitz, and I just don't feel like any of them shone, for me, as brightly as Rip Van Winkle did.
Yeah. I feel like they gave her and like the Valentine brothers the most personality, kind of.
Right.
And like even that was like an episode maybe for each. That's how much they got. I mean, these episodes are longer. They were like 40 minutes, most of them, which is nice because they're kind of like mini movies, but just a little more. Just give me a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going back to Seras, the moment where I was most frustrated at the show is when they tried to talk about her past. Where her and Bernadotte are fighting Zoran Blitz, this character that can create illusions and make you think that things are happening. You're attacking things. You're being hurt by things that aren't actually there.
Yeah.
And also kind of delve into your past and terrorize you with your past. That's what this Zoran Blitz character can do. And she goes into the mind of Seras, and you learn that Seras was traumatized, where basically these guys come in, kill her parents, and then like rape her dead mother, and it's this horrifying thing.
Yeah.
It should be this moment where you're like, oh my god, I didn't know that about Seras. That's awful. That's tragic. But it feels like the way that it comes up, and then the way that it is resolved afterward, it's just like this big moment that's kind of like hanging there. It doesn't feel like it's properly given the time that it needs to really breathe and have the impact that it's supposed to have. It just sort of happens, and I think that's a common theme that we've already said, and I want to reiterate, is there are so many moments where I felt like things just sort of happened in Hellsing Ultimate. Even with Bernadotte, with his story about the history of the mercenaries, I thought that was better.
Yeah.
I thought that was more effective than Seras' backstory.
I love the mercenaries. So cool.
But again, it's
was he not a Metal Slug character?
Yeah.
All I was thinking about, like, this guy needs to be Metal Slug.
Yeah. And why? So I have like the characters divided out between like, who did I like, who didn't I like. Bernadotte is somebody that I ended up really liking a whole bunch because he just kind of has this swagger about him where, like, with a lot of these characters, with a lot of the Millennium characters, with Seras Victoria, it's like, okay, not only do you not have enough going on personality-wise, like your backstories aren't that interesting, with Bernadotte, I wanted to see more of him, but anytime that he was on screen, the things that he did were just so badass and awesome and fun to watch that I wish more characters had the charm that he had.
Yeah, for sure. Super likable.
Yeah, very likable indeed. I want to talk about Walter.
Walter, yeah.
Yeah, so the butler and the way that...
What'd they call him? The Angel of Death?
Yeah.
I think that was his nickname. I love his weapon, too.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, so what is his weapon, Brad?
So he pretty much has, like, strings that he, like, has between the arms. Like, cut people on, wrapping, like, strings around people, just pulling their heads off. Super cool, pretty unique weapon. Not just another gun.
Yeah. The way that we kind of understand Walter at the beginning is that kind of like Alucard, he is a servant
loyal
of the Hellsing.
Subject, yeah.
Yeah, loyal
servant.
subject of the Hellsing organization. He is, yes, a butler, but also somebody that will defend Hellsing with his abilities with his weapons.
Yeah. They hype up that relationship in the past. When
Right.
They fought in World War II.
Right.
Which is cool. I just wish we saw a little more.
Exactly. So they do. They definitely imply, well, not imply, they outright state that Hellsing, or Alucard and Walter fought together in the past. They took on basically what is now Millennium during World War II, and they were kind of comrades in arms, and they really trust each other.
Yeah.
Alucard, however, remarks that, like, hey, you've gotten old, you're not as strong as me.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole past that we don't really get to see a lot of, but they definitely reference throughout the show. And I was really attached to Walter.
Yeah, love
I was
Walter.
really attached to Walter because he fits that archetype very, very well, where he does feel so loyal, and it's like, oh man, he would do anything for Hellsing. Like, when the leader of Hellsing, Sir Integra Fairbrook Wingate's
long
Hellsing.
name.
Yeah, long name. Favorite character in the show, though.
Oh, yeah. She's great.
She really leans on him.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's like, she trusts him the most, pretty much.
Right, because Alucard is so powerful that, not that she doesn't trust Alucard, and not that she doesn't use him as a weapon, but I think there's this just kind of chaotic, beast-like nature of Alucard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas Walter is presented as more of this calm...
Alucard's much more of a tool for her.
Exactly.
I mean, they do have a relationship, yeah, of course, but Walter seems much more like a close, trusted friend.
Exactly. I completely agree. But the thing about Walter that we're building up toward is, in the back half of the show, all of a sudden, he just betrays Alucard and Hellsing and is working with Millennium, and the doctor does this hasty procedure to return Walter's youth to him, and for a long time, all while he was serving Hellsing, all while he was alongside Alucard, he was planning on fighting Alucard. Like, this was his scheme all along, is what he says. And it just feels like it comes out of nowhere.
What do you mean feels like? It does.
It does, exactly.
I was just like, what?
Yeah,
Why is this happening?
It comes out of nowhere. There's like a before and an after. And it could be amazing. It could be this really great twist. And I think something that makes it even more painful is, like, I really got a sense from Integra Fairbrook Wingate's Hellsing that she was crushed by this.
Yeah.
That it really devastated
Betrayal.
her.
Yeah.
That it totally destroyed. Like, what, and I think why that was so effective is that character, Integra, throughout the entire series, she doesn't crack from anything.
No.
I mean, she doesn't have the
No.
powers of vampires like Seras or Walter or Alucard. She, in any situation, despite being a normal human, despite, like, being attacked by vampires or ghouls or explosions happening all around her or getting shot at, she keeps her composure. She just will light up a cigar and deal with the situation.
Love it. Remind me of Big Boss every time.
Yeah, just completely cool and calm. And here's the one moment where you can tell that she's shaking a little bit, and I liked that a lot. And I wish they would have presented it in a way that could have, like, reverberated more than it did.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like, Walter, this character that I really liked, becoming kind of this revenge-seeking super weapon that has this climactic battle with Alucard, it kind of it felt so flat that it kind of ruined the character for me a little bit.
Yeah, it felt really weird. I wish they didn't do that, honestly.
Yeah.
If they did it, though, I wish it did have more building up to it instead of just out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Felt really rushed. I guess that's the problem when you can only do a certain amount of episodes, but I don't know what it's like in the manga, so...
Sure. We've been very critical of Hellsing Ultimate, and I definitely have things that I want to talk about that I really liked, that we've already kind of touched on, but I want to ask you, what are the things that you enjoyed most about Hellsing Ultimate?
I loved the relationship between Alucard and Anderson. The rivalry they had.
Oh, man. Anderson is somebody that should have been brought up long before this because he's one of the best characters in the show.
Him and Alucard are the best parts of that show, dude.
Yeah. He's
a paladin.
Yeah. So what makes Anderson so good?
So everyone in this show is a psychopath. Mm-hmm. Every character is a psychopath. Alucard's a psychopath, and Anderson is also a psychopath who is so into the idea of, like, killing heathens and anyone who goes against the Catholic Church. And Alucard is like the perfect representation of what he hates. And Alucard loves Anderson because he wants a worthy opponent. Like throughout the show, Alucard always just wants a worthy opponent. And he finally gets an Anderson, dude.
Yeah.
It's like the destined battle they want. Oh my God. They have like the completely different, unique fighting styles. Anderson's all close quarters, uses like holy bayonets. He always does these cool spells, like these prayers and everything like that. Alucard just uses the guns. The showdowns they have is really awesome. Super violent, their fights.
Yeah. My favorite moment between Anderson and Alucard facing off is when Anderson gets his arm almost blown off. It's just like basically hanging by a thread. And Alucard is taunting him about his arm. And Anderson is like, you know what? Screw it. And bites his arm and uses it anyway. Like just refuses to let even his arm being blown off be a problem. Like probably my favorite, most badass moment of the entire series for me.
So cool. Yeah. Love it, dude. So good. And I like the him interacting with the Catholic Church and everything like that.
Yeah.
How he's kind of like sent out as their angel of death almost, and the butting heads between the Catholic Church. What was the other character's name with the ponytail? I forgot his name too. Sorry,
I haven't written. No, Enrico Maxwell.
Yeah, their kind of relationship with like him on a power trip, kind of wanting to become. I think he wanted to become like the new pope almost.
Yeah. So Maxwell, kind of the head of the Vatican here, is on this power trip and is kind of trying to use Anderson and people below him as pawns, and Anderson is like, you've no power over me.
Yeah, you can't stop me.
Your idea of power is just a lie. All I care about, my single purpose, is to be a weapon of God.
Yep.
And I think that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that separate section. I think they're all paladins. Like Anderson and his like little group below him, their kind of thing. That was awesome.
Yeah, I think why Anderson is so good and why we can be so enthusiastic about it is because I feel like Anderson doesn't have any of those moments for me that stick out and I'm like, wait, what's going on here?
Why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why did this come out of left field? Why didn't you spend more time developing this? How they present Anderson is he wants to be a weapon of God no matter the cost. He views himself kind of as this rival, as the person who will take Alucard down, and that's it. They don't overcomplicate it.
Yep.
They don't throw in
Keep it
weird
simple, baby.
backstory stuff. It's just like, this is Anderson, and I think kind of with the high-intensity battle after battle vibe of Hellsing Ultimate, he fits the best with that.
With the show, yeah.
It's just he's the purest vehicle for the pace that Hellsing Ultimate is constantly trying to drive forward, and I like that so much.
He does that sick pose, like holding the bayonets. He does his like prayer and everything like that. So rad.
Yeah, and I think again, kind of echoing that same point with Anderson, that's why I like Integra so much. Is she is this stalwart defender of London. She will do it no matter what. She doesn't waver from that.
Yeah.
There's no bullshit. She comes from this family. She's going to do right by that family. And that's it. And that's not to say that she's not an interesting character. There are moments that surprise me that I thought were in line with that character, in line with everything they presented before, but kind of showed a different side. And the scene I'm referencing specifically is Seras refuses to drink blood.
Yep.
She doesn't. I think the impression that I got is that she kind of was struggling with being a vampire. She didn't want to be a monster like that.
Yeah.
And so what Integra does is to kind of like satiate her hunger. She cuts her finger, and in this very sensual scene, Seras licks the blood off of her finger.
Yep.
And it's so good because it's reaffirming so many things and developing Seras in like a simple way that I just wish they would have done a lot more of, where it's like, no, like, yes, I respect you, Seras, but you serve me. I'm your boss. Like, you are powerless against me.
Such a cool boss, dude.
Yeah, such a cool boss.
Such a badass dude.
Right.
Oh,
and
man.
you are also powerless against like your own desires. Like, I respect you, trying to fight it, but this is who you are now. You have to accept it. And really struggling with that that essence of being a vampire. How did you feel? We kind of talked about the fight scenes and characters being blown apart, but how did you feel about the animation in general and the music in general and just the overall presentation?
The music doesn't stand out to me that much. I kind of like recognized a few tracks when I would be hearing, like especially a lot of the combat, but I thought the animation was really great. It seemed super high budget, which was really nice, very consistent. Like we said, especially with 3 different studios on it.
Yeah.
Like this series is like really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like we have problems with it, but it's super fun to watch.
Yeah, I think as long as we're kind of on the subject, like the overall takeaway of the show is it didn't blow me away. I don't view it as legendary, but man, it was entertaining.
Yeah,
man, it was fun.
Yeah.
And like, yes, there are all these criticisms that you can throw at it, but I think overall I enjoyed my time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to the animation and really quickly touching on the music, I agree that it's not music that's going to be playing in my head or that's going to stick with me a long time or that I'm going to pull up on YouTube or anything like that. But I think kind of the orchestral bombast that they're going for with the soundtrack in Hellsing Ultimate is perfect with
it
like
fit,
you know,
sure.
London Bird.
Yeah.
And so I liked that. I thought it was fine. I thought it was appropriate. The animation specifically, we talked about the fights, but I also want to talk about their presentation of Alucard.
Mm-hmm.
Holy goddamn!
Like
when you when you present this figure that has all of these different souls, that is this demon, that is this beast, the way that the like shadow of him, the figure of him contorts and twists, and the things that come out of him. I think when you make a character where it's like, hey, they're extremely powerful, they've absorbed all these souls, they're unpredictable, you have to have the visuals be so exaggerated and so impactful and so bold in order to emphasize that. And I think that's something that like Hellsing Ultimate does.
Oh my god, yeah.
If nothing else, just watching Alucard surprise you and reveal another side of his power during a fight and how like menacing that feels purely from a visual standpoint is so
they do a good job of like making the characters feel terrified too.
Oh yeah.
Like when the Valentine brother like finally gets him to do that kind of stuff like that. Guy is panicked, tries to run out, freaks out.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It is very good stuff. I'm trying to think of other things that we could talk about. There are different parts of the story that we could talk about, kind of revelations at the end. With the major, I guess one point that I want to bring up that I think Hellsing Ultimate is smarter about than other shows that have very, very, very strong protagonists is the way that Alucard is eventually kind of taken down by Millennium. I thought it was very smart. I thought it was really cool.
Oh, I'm trying to remember the kid's name.
Yeah,
the
Schrodinger.
Schrodinger.
Yeah.
Cuts his like head off and like into the blood of Alucard.
Right.
I was super confused. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what the hell's going on right now?
Sure. Yeah. So again, with Alucard, he's consumed all of these people. He has all of these lives, and so he's not actually, but practically immortal. And so the way the Major thinks about it is you have this character Schrodinger, obviously a very on-the-nose reference to Schrodinger's cat, who can basically be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, and that is done by all of the random appearances. Like Schrodinger keeps popping up at different
like
points throughout the
shot
series.
that, like Integra just shoots him in the head like immediately.
Right, and so you have this character that kind of is this omnipresent dude.
Yeah.
And the way there's this point where Alucard is kind of like sucking all of this blood into him, and Schrodinger cuts off his head and allows himself to be absorbed by Alucard.
Yeah.
And what this does, the reason why it takes down Alucard is it's like this paradoxical thing where you have this character that can be everywhere and nowhere as long as it has a sense of self. Does it have a sense of self within Alucard? Like, how does that work? How do you absorb that? And so that is what eventually kind of like it breaks the chain of Alucard and allows him to be taken down. And I thought that was like, oh, that's a really clever twist. It's you know, it's not the we're just gonna have somebody that's just as strong as you kind of thing.
Yeah. Because there is no one.
Yeah, and I guess there's really not much to dig into, but I just appreciate that you have the major, and I think again the characters that resonate with me most strongly is where every part of them is kind of centered around this core theme, and the major is somebody who, the way they describe it is somebody who looks like a monster but is human, and Alucard is somebody that looks like a human but is a monster, and it's kind of this idea of what is it to be human, like. What is so disgusting about Alucard is that he's not even really his own person anymore. And despite Millennium creating all of these vampires, doing all of this stuff, he refuses to succumb to that. He refuses to alter himself. He wants to be who he is no matter what. He wants to follow his own will. And so it's that idea versus Alucard where it's just, I'm going to consume as much as possible.
Yeah.
And the way that he takes him down is so interesting. And that again, going back to Anderson, that's something that I really like about Anderson as well, where Alucard is practically begging him not to thrust the nail into himself and become a monster. Yep. He's like, Anderson, you are like the one who can defeat me. A human must defeat me. Alucard is like crying out about this. And again, kind of what we were talking about with Integra and Walter, where she felt shook, this character who was basically indomitable for the rest of the series. That was a moment for me where Anderson was becoming a monster, where I'm like, oh, Alucard is shaken. Where you have this character who is so overpowered, like such a huge demon that that facade is cracking a little bit. They're suffering a little bit here. And I thought it was such a good moment, so powerful, the culmination of Anderson's character, kind of the culmination of Alucard's character. And I wanted, I guess, more moments like that, more humanizing moments for Alucard.
Sure.
Maybe that could have happened, like you said, if they were presenting like the backstory of Alucard a little bit better.
Yeah, I wish we saw more when he was actually Dracula in Romania, kind of thing like that, going through the war.
Sure.
Impaling of people like that. I wish there was just a little more of that.
So we spent a lot of this episode talking about more of stuff, flashbacks, more backstory, that sort of thing. What do you think about the idea that the vibe that I kind of get from Hellsing Ultimate is that it's so kind of obsessed with being in the moment, kind of throwing you into this power struggle between these forces and just focusing on that and not letting its scope go outside of that. What do you think of that argument?
I think that's a fair point. They kind of like hint at this bigger universe, but they just really focus on this little tiny thing the whole time mostly.
Do you think they do a good job of being in the moment?
I was usually in the moment with them. Okay. When it was in the moment, I was usually with them until the end. I got confused and I was like, what the hell's going on here?
Do you think that's because at the end they tried to throw too much in at once?
Maybe. I think I was just feeling fatigue from the arc. It just seemed like it went on way too long to me. I feel like they could have chopped it down a little bit.
Sure. Speaking of chopping it down, let's talk about the length of Hellsing Ultimate. So each of these episodes is it anywhere from like around 43 minutes to an hour?
Yeah, the last one's like an hour or something.
Yeah. That's kind of the length. Did you feel like with these 10 episodes, with that amount of time, that it was too long, that it was just right, that they used essentially that hour effectively?
I think the time was right, but just the pacing of it kind of a little. I know Mike hates that word, pacing issues. Yeah. Sometimes I just wish it kind of like moved forward a little more sometimes. Mm-hmm. Or when something was interesting to me, they just kind of moved away from it and never went back to it.
Sure. The thing that I struggle with, not just with anime, but with video games, is I think sometimes when you're doing a critical discussion, it's hard to convey, like, oh man, like I still think it's entertaining, but I have this laundry list of problems.
Yeah.
Because the things that I liked about Hellsing Ultimate, I feel like are so easy to describe. It's like, hey, do you like ultra violence? Do you like a gothic atmosphere? Do you like badass characters? Like, there's not much for me to say about the things that really resonated with me about Hellsing Ultimate, but I feel like it's easier to elaborate on the things that I didn't like, because
it's harder to go super in depth about just like violence sometimes.
Yeah,
especially when we're talking about that, like, because when we could talk about like specific character moments, we can get into that and how it ties in. But it's like this show's strength is just like the animation and the violence and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Like, we cannot understate that, but it makes it seem like, I feel like it seems like we hate this more than we do.
Yeah,
that's the vibe
definitely.
I'm getting, dude.
Definitely.
It's like I like this.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to put that on you.
No, yeah. I'm just like thinking about when we're talking about this. But it's like, yeah, the action's awesome. The animation's awesome.
Yeah, and I also always agree with the sentiment that, hey, if you're going to bother to criticize something so much and detail it out and be like, okay, I didn't like this, and this, make a whole list of things rather than just saying this sucked or this was awful, this is worth your time. I think that means it's because you liked it. I think it means because there was something that you found in it that you thought was good and you just want it to be even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where we're coming from, and that's definitely what I want to emphasize. And I want to be careful here because I liked it so much that I want to see essentially different versions of it. I would like to read the manga. I would like to see the original TV series. I would like to see like how that ended with its own protagonist and the different direction.
It did not end like this.
Right.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I want to see how that goes and compare them. Like I feel invested enough in this. Hellsing Ultimate showed me enough that I want to know more. Now, with everything else that we have going on, I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do just want to say like the feeling is there.
The interest is there.
And so that is Hellsing Ultimate.
Yeah. Fun watch, man.
Yeah, I
think that is watching it.
I think that is probably our most critical EZAnime so far.
Yeah, from a good place though.
Yeah, critical from a good place, and I think that's good. I would hate every single EZAnime to be
like I would recommend it to watch.
I would recommend it to watch like with caveats. It's not like, oh hey, you have to watch this immediately right now. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to complain about, kind of thing. All right. Let's move on to recommendations.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to go first? Or you want me
I'll
to
go first.
Okay.
I don't know if I brought this up. I can't remember. But I'm going to bring out the big gun.
Okay.
The broad scope. Naruto.
Okay.
Bringing out Naruto. I know some people don't like Naruto, but whatever, dude. Naruto's fun and jolly. I like all the characters in Naruto.
Okay.
I'm super attached to him. I love Naruto as a character.
Yeah.
The arcs he goes through with his team. I love all that. I love the universe. I love Akatsuki. I love all that stuff. I love ninjas. How can you not love that? Some real sick characters in this show. That's what sets us apart for me is the characters. I know a lot of people complain about the filler. I read mostly Naruto, so I didn't see a lot of that filler. I would skip all that.
Yeah.
Skip it. But really cool story. Good payoff, I think, in the end. I don't know, and there's Boruto now. I've seen one episode of that.
Yeah.
Seemed alright. But Naruto, super fun. Your typical shonen manga, but I think with a pretty strong cast.
So the thing with shonens that are as big as Naruto is there's a lot of stories. There's kind of something that they build up forever and then it finally pays off. And so my question to you is, as somebody who's seen all of Naruto and Shippuden, do you think that like it starts strong, remains strong despite how gargantuan it is, or are there a lot of like, whoa, okay, this like outside of the filler, obviously,
it stayed strong for me.
Okay.
Consistently.
It worked for you. And what would you say is the biggest reason that it stayed strong for you?
The characters.
Okay.
The relationship between all the characters. Really great, unique characters, I felt like, in this show that set them apart. Like, it sets up a really cool world of painting this world full of ninjas with like, different abilities, everything like that. Not everyone looks like a total human or something. There's a giant shark man out there, which is super rad. Love Kisame. But I think it's the characters, the relationship between... spoilers, the show is about a rivalry mostly between Naruto and Sasuke. And I think it's a really great rivalry. Like, one of my favorite rivalries, actually.
Okay.
With a good payoff.
I got to like somewhere around episode 50 with the original Naruto. And I've said this before, but man, I love Rock Lee.
Who doesn't love Rock Lee?
Man, I love Rock Lee.
Rock Lee and Guy are 10 out of 10s.
Anytime I think about Naruto, that is the immediate thought that pops into my head.
Dynamic entry is one of my favorite things.
Is Rock Lee. Yeah.
It's just when Guy comes out and goes, Dynamic entry! Kicks him into the face. It's so good.
They just sold his struggle so well.
That's what this does.
Like, I just... It hit me. It hit me like a 10-ton
the one criticism
sack of bricks.
I will give part 2 is part 2 kind of like drifts away from a lot of those characters more. Like, they're still there, but they're not as much the focus. The focus is more Naruto and Sasuke in part 2.
Yeah, you actually made me think of another question with Naruto that I want to
Sure.
throw at you. So I'm watching Dragon Ball Super right now.
Yeah.
And I'm really liking Dragon Ball Super. I finished the Universe 7, Universe 6 tournament that they're going in. I'm just getting started on the Future Trunks saga.
Dude, Beerus and Champa, 10
yes,
out of 10.
they're great.
10 out of
They're
10.
absolutely
Yeah,
great. And
yeah,
that actually is the point I'm trying to make. I think Dragon Ball Super works because you have this like natural escalation with Dragon Ball Super, right? Where it's like Goku and Vegeta are literally gods now.
Yep.
They're divine beings.
Yeah.
They're going across universes to find stronger opponents. Because like, what else do you do with Goku and Vegeta? You think about
Gotta have aliens now.
Right. So when you're that ridiculous, I think if you take it too seriously, it starts to suck. Like everything that they're introducing in Dragon Ball Super, the way Goku is acting constantly, the way like Monica is a really funny character, Beerus and Whis, their relationship with each other and with food, where like there's kind of like, yes, there are gods fighting, but we have plenty of room to be lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
And wrapping this all back around, that's something I think Naruto does really well.
Yeah.
Like Naruto is just a goofball. He's fun to interact with.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good balance.
I think he's
Sasuke.
a great character to root for, and I think he has good development. I like his development as a character.
Absolutely.
I think it's relatable, which is great. Like, I mean, shonen protagonists are supposed to be relatable, obviously.
Right. But my question to you is, as the show evolves, and particularly with Shippuden, where you have the battles get more grandiose, powers get higher.
Yeah.
Does it still kind of, is it able to keep that relatable, lighthearted element within itself?
Sometimes, like the last half, or
Excuse me.
the final arc is definitely more serious, but there's definitely, you know, your lighthearted comedic moments, which are great.
Okay. So you're saying that like Naruto, Shippuden, they go together great.
I mean,
you like the whole beginning to end.
It's part 1, part 2. I think they go well together. They're different, but I think they go well to each other and complement each other appropriately.
Great. My recommendation is a little lame because what I'm gonna do is kind of.
Dude, I just busted out Naruto. What do you mean?
Well, okay.
A little lame. Like, I took the easy way.
The way that I kind of have viewed recommendations before, and maybe this isn't the right way to do it, is like they're good motivation for me to kind of really branch out and talk about something that we haven't talked about on the show before, I haven't talked about with Easy Allies before. And I've been kind of fascinated by Perfect Blue for a long time.
I don't know what that is.
So it's this. I don't really want to get into it right now because when I actually do watch it, that's when we'll talk about it and elaborate on all those things. But I watched so this guy I really like, this YouTuber, Super Eye Patch Wolf, who I said Wolf.
Sorry.
Old GT meme. But he's super good. He does really great analysis. He's a very intelligent guy. I love his videos.
Cool.
He talks about anime, he talks about video games, a whole bunch of things. I highly recommend you guys check him out if you haven't already. But he did a video about Perfect Blue, and it seemed fascinating to me. And so I wanted to watch it because I think it's only like an hour and 20 minutes. I wanted to watch it and talk about it on this recommendation part. But like, it's really expensive to get a physical copy, and I can't find anywhere to stream it or rent it.
Oh.
And like,
yikes.
Yes, I could go through like
backdoor shadier
methods, but I really don't like doing that. And so if you know of a good way to watch this movie that's like legal and not going to like bankrupt me, and it won't bankrupt me obviously, but I don't want to spend like an absurd
hit.
I don't want to take that hit. That's a better way of saying it. Let me know because I really want to watch it. I want to talk about it on either the show for a full episode or at least for a recommendation. So Perfect Blue. My actual recommendation. Last time I talked about Made in Abyss.
Okay.
I have watched all of the episodes of Made in Abyss. I've finished Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is one of those shows where I think it's really easy to just be completely hyperbolic, but it is absolutely true. Like I don't know. I can't remember the last time an anime hit me so hard emotionally.
Whoa.
And where this show starts for the first few episodes, you have these kids who want to go through this mysterious abyss full of monsters and danger. And it does seem threatening. They do a good job of selling that early on. But by and large, it sort of feels like your standard fantasy. Kids are going to go achieve their dreams and experience unexpected hardship and grow as a result. It is way more than that.
Great.
It is basically turns into a horror show.
Oh my God.
At a point. But
no.
it's not that like It's not that Doki Doki Literature Club kind of horror where it just like
Don't tell me what that is.
It just turns and it's so sharp and suddenly you're in this nightmare.
No,
it's
I
not
don't want to know that.
I'm sorry. Just trying to illustrate the point.
Okay. For the show.
I'm sorry, mate. That was probably unnecessary, but anyway,
okay.
It's not that sharp turn. It is gradual and realistic and believable. And the more that you learn about the Abyss, the more that you learn about the two lead characters, the more you learn about the past and their mother. It is just amazing. The animation is amazing. The story is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this is a show that like you should take your cue and throw it in the trash if you haven't watched Mid Abyss. This is like number one, top priority, 10 out of 10.
Good
5
Lord.
stars, masterful. It's very, very good. And so now that I've finished it, I feel even more strongly about it than I did the last time I did the recommendation. And so I want to get up here and say that. So that will be the first 2018 episode of EZAnime.
Books.
In the books.
Dude, let's tease the up and coming series. The series we're going to talk about. There's 2 we have in mind.
Well, I want to be careful because there's 2 we have in mind, but we haven't actually decided what they're going to be.
Okay. I mean,
I think...
Tease them. Give them a little tease.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that a series that we talked about that has gods in it, that we talked about this episode, is something that we want to do, something that not only Brad and I have watched, but another ally has watched, that we would like to do an episode on that at some point in the future.
Relatively new series that came out.
Yeah.
That me and Ben know nothing about.
Yeah, we don't know anything about it.
Has a goofy name.
Yeah, what is that name?
Devilman Crybaby?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? I always forget.
Yeah.
I always just want to say Devil May Cry.
Right. I thought that's what you were, because what happened is before we shot this, I came in and you're like, Devilman Crybaby? I'm like, is he talking about Devil May Cry? Because there's an anime for Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that what he's talking about? And you're like, no, it's this new Netflix thing. And I had never heard of it. I don't know anything about it. But you're saying it's people
hot
are talking
right
about it. It's hot. It's the first I've heard of it. And so something I would like to do with this show, and I think you feel this way too, is that we would like to do a little bit better about keeping up with things that are actually airing and making it a little bit more relevant that way. We don't know when either of those episodes is going to happen, but
on the horizon though.
When we figure it out, when we work out that scheduling,
we'll
tell you.
But yeah,
and that'll be it for the first 2018 EZAnime. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you're not too mad at us if you love Hellsing and all the
I like
things that we
Hellsing.
said about it.
I like Hellsing.
Yeah, I like it too. All right, everybody. See you next time.